everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be doing a what I ate in a day video. I filmed this over a weekend. I think it was a Saturday, so I had a little bit more time to spend in the kitchen. We're going to be making an apple and oat bake, followed by leek and kale tart for lunch, and finally sourdough chicken wraps for dinner. Enjoy! So here I am feeding my sourdough starter in the evening the day before I plan to make my wraps. So the method I use is the one that my family has used for decades and that my parents taught me growing up. The way it works is that each time you bake something with sourdough, you save 3 to 4 tablespoons worth of your dough. It can then be stored in the fridge for about 2 to 3 weeks, and when you want to bake, you do what you see me doing here. You take the starter you saved last time, which I have in the ramekin just in front of me there. So I take that starter that I saved from my last bake, and to that you'll see me adding some lukewarm water and then some flour, which I already have in my bowl. And then I'll also be adding a little bit of honey just to get that process of feeding my starter going and making it a little bit faster with all the sugars in the honey. And then I'll be mixing until I have something that resembles thick pancake batter. And once I'm happy with it, I will be leaving it to rest for about 8 to 12 hours. And that really depends on how warm it is in my house. So in the summer, it may take more towards 8 hours. And in winter, which is when I'm making this, it's quite cold in the house. So I usually leave this in the oven overnight, switched off, with maybe like a blanket around on the bowl, covering it to keep it nice and cozy. And then in the morning, I add more flour to it, depending on what I want to make. If I want to make bread or wraps, I have my sourdough starter fed and ready to go. So here I am taking a couple tablespoons of my fed sourdough starter, popping it in a little Tupperware. This is going to be resting on my countertop for about 8 hours or so, and then I'll be popping it back in the fridge, ready to be fed again and to be used in my next sourdough bake. Here I am adding some flour to my fed sourdough starter, adding some water to it as well, and then just kneading some more until I get a nice dough that is easy to work with. So I'll just repeat this process and add a bit more flour and a bit more water, but not too much. You don't want anything too sticky, really. And once I'm done, I'm going to add some olive oil. This is just to make the dough a little bit more pliable, and I find that when I add a little bit of olive oil to my dough, it makes it easier to roll up. So this is really perfect for when you are making wraps, which is what we're doing today. So I'll just work it a little bit more, and then this is my dough. It's ready to go in the oven, switched off, and rest for about 12 hours. Here I am. This is me in the morning making a healthy version of an apple crumble. It's more of an apple and oat bake as opposed to a crumble or a crisp, as you Americans would say. And these are apples that me and Pav, my husband, picked from a local wild apple tree. These are lovely apples. They're so sweet and they're just perfect. So we're really lucky to have found that lovely tree to get a few apples from before it's too late and before it gets too frosty and too cold for apples to be picked. So here I am. I'm chopping them quite roughly. I'm not being too precise with it, and I've chopped quite a bunch of apples, and here they are ready to go. And my next step, once I'm done chopping these apples, is going to be working on the topping. So that's going to be, actually no, I'm not working on the topping. I'm adding some cinnamon. So I'm still working on my apples. I'm adding some cinnamon, and this is some applesauce that I made from more of the wild apples that I'm working with. And this lovely applesauce is not too sweet. And here I am. Yeah, I've added some cinnamon and some applesauce. It's about 4 tablespoons of applesauce, and mixing it in and mixing it in some more. And this is going to be our filling, which I'm approving of. It's quite nice. It's not too sweet. And after that, I'm adding a bit of cornstarch, just so that the little sauce that will form when in the oven will be nice and thick. So we don't want anything too watery. So that's where the cornstarch comes in. Once I'm done with that, here I'm melting some coconut oil and about, I would say, maybe a teaspoon or so of honey. And I'm just melting this on the hob. And you want the hob not to be too hot, so low to medium heat. Then in go the oats, some more cinnamon, and I'm mixing everything in. And after that, I'm adding some shredded coconut for texture. This was really nice, and it's all mixed in. And after this, I'll just be popping my topping here that I've just made on my chopped apples, and we are ready to pop this bake in the oven. Here is the final product, a perfect cozy breakfast on a cold December morning. Here we are going to a lovely farmer's market in a town not so far from the small village that we live in Scotland. I love this market. They have so many wonderful local products. You see some salami, some honey. These are some lovely baked goods, some cheese. And we just went for a lovely dog walk. And Millie here was loving life. As you can see, she was having a great time. And in no time, it was time for lunch. We're going to be making a leek and kale tart. So I'm just making my dough with some flour, olive oil. I've just realized I used quite a bit of olive oil. As you can see, I love my olive oil, extra virgin olive oil from Italy. And I'm just going to mix in my flour and olive oil until I get these nice crumbs. And after that, I will be adding some water. You don't want to add too much water. You want a dough that is fairly easy to work with and kind of comes together quite easily. I'm adding a little bit more of olive oil just to bring it all together here, and this will be resting for about half an hour while we make our filling, which consists of some leeks. These are leeks that I have grown in our garden, and it's actually the first time that I've grown leeks and I absolutely love them. They are delicious and fairly easy to grow, and they're frost resistant too, which really helps. Here I am preparing some kale. This is kale that we have grown in our garden, and I absolutely love growing kale as well. It's fairly easy to grow, and it's just amazing in winter where we don't have anything else growing in the garden, and you can just throw kale in soups, stews, smoothies. It's really handy. Here I am cooking my leeks and kale in my pan with some olive oil for about 10 minutes and seasoned it with salt and pepper. Next, we're going to be rolling out our dough, and this wasn't too hard today. I've had worse days. I will be whisking up some eggs. As you can see, I think I whisked up about 5 eggs for this, and these are some of the eggs our hens provide for us. And once I'm happy with the consistency of that, I added some salt, some pepper, and then my leeks and my kale. After 45 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius, here's our tart. And here's our lunch, some salad, peas, and mashed potatoes. We got the fire going as it was getting cold in the evening, and it's time to make some dinner. We're going to be making some wraps with some chicken and some homegrown Savoy cabbage and a lovely fresh side salad. So here I am prepping the Savoy cabbage. I'm starting with some onion chopped up, and I'm then adding some of our Savoy cabbage that again we grew in our garden. Quite proud of this. It was lovely and crisp and sweet and just delicious. So looking forward to this dinner at this point. Quite hungry. So here I am starting to get ready to roll out my wraps, and on the right hand side you can see I'm melting some beef tallow that I rendered. It's a fairly lengthy process, but also a really fun one. I may do a video in the future about it. I love using tallow to cook, and once the tallow is melted, I am adding my wrap to my pan and then cooking it on both sides until I see some lovely delicious brown spots pop up. And here's dinner. We have some chicken, some tomato and cucumber salad. We have our Savoy cabbage all fried up, and we have our wraps. We were looking forward to dinner at this point, and that's our wrap. We also added some sour cream and some olives, and here I am cutting into it and trying to get a lovely shot for you guys. It may not look like much, but it was absolutely delicious. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that you got some inspiration for your next meal. If you are new to this channel, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. I plan to make one new video every week about simple homemaking projects, cooking and gardening. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.